The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we're going to be talking to Callie Dale. She's a supervising attorney at Montana Legal Services, and we're going to learn a little bit about everything they do. What is civil legal aid? Where can you find assistance when you need it? And we're going to talk a little bit about the Medicaid unwinding process and how Montana Legal Services can help Montanans. So make sure you stay tuned to today's Aging Horizons because you're really not going to want to miss this.
Montana veterans, your independence matters. The freedom to age with dignity, how and where you want for as long as possible. Please help us improve long-term veteran care in Montana by taking a short online survey. Go to veteransurvey.mt.gov. Your long-term independence is our priority. Go to veteransurvey.mt.gov and help us get it right, Montana. This message brought to you by DPHHS, the Montana Veteran Affairs Division, and this station.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare Summary Notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
45 years, 2 packs a day. It's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell. Today we're going to be speaking with Callie Dale. She is a supervising attorney at Montana Legal Services, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what they do. Callie, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
Callie, so Montana Legal Services is sometimes called MLSA. What do you guys do?
So Montana Legal Services Association is a nonprofit law firm in Montana that serves low-income Montanans. So we specialize in civil legal aid. So a lot of people, when they think about lawyers and the law, they think about criminal law. So,
sure, law and order.
Yes, you have a right to an attorney, things like that. So what Montana Legal Services does is cover the other gap. So if you're having a civil legal aid issue, you don't have a right to an attorney. That's only in the criminal part of the law. So what we help people with is housing issues. So have you received an eviction notice from your landlord? Sure. Are you having issues in your housing that you need repaired? Is your door not working? Is your stove not working? Things like that if you're renting. Those are services that we can help at Montana Legal Services. Did you leave a rental and now you're not getting your security deposit back? Something else that we can help with in the housing realm. We also can help with public benefits if your SNAP has been turned off, or if you are having issues with your Medicaid, that's something you can contact Montana Legal Services for. Also, if you're having debt issues, if your wages are being garnished, if you are being harassed by creditors, those are things that the law provides assistance for, and that Montana Legal Services provides attorneys to help you work through those issues.
And where is Montana Legal Services located? Is it a Helena-based program?
So we serve the entire state. We have primary offices in Helena, Billings, and Missoula, and then we have some smaller satellite offices across the state. But our main offices are in Helena, Billings, and Missoula, but we mainly provide services over the phone.
Sure.
And if that doesn't work, we actually have quite a few other services where people can get services, because we do run into a lot of our clients who don't have consistent phone access or don't have internet access. So we've come up with a few solutions to help receive services even if you're in more rural parts of the state.
So I think one of the things that people struggle with is, it's pretty easy to tell that you need a criminal defense attorney. You've committed a crime, you've been charged with something, but civil legal issues sometimes are harder to identify. How do folks even know that they may need legal assistance?
Yeah, I think for us it's mainly about education. It's coming on programs like this and talking about what we do. Housing realm, I think that's a little bit easier because you are usually getting something from the court. But even if you just receive something from your landlord saying that your lease is going to be up in 3, 14, or 30 days, that's always something that you can bring to Montana Legal Services and get some advice about. I think the more difficult things are if you need help writing a parenting plan, that's something that we can help with. If you need help in a divorce, if you need help drafting a will, in some cases we can help do that. So I think that the answer is, if you think that it might be legal, you should try and give us a call, because we often can provide resources even if we aren't able to provide direct legal assistance.
And then how do people get in touch with Montana Legal Services?
So the easiest way, if you have access to either on your phone or a computer, is mtlsa.org and applying online, and then you will get a call back from one of our intake specialists. You can also call. We have our phones are open from 9 until 1 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's another option to call, is our helpline. But online intakes are really the easiest and probably fastest response that you'll get.
And we primarily focus on seniors on this program, but Montana Legal Services can work with anyone over the age of 18, correct?
Correct. And sometimes younger than that, but primarily over 18. But we do have services specifically targeted for seniors and people who might be in a vulnerable situation as well.
Sure. How does one qualify for services under Montana Legal Services? Are there different ways?
Yes, so we have a variety of grants, so people can come to us in all sorts of ways. But for the overall, we serve Montanans who are at 200% or below the federal poverty line. So if you are above that number in Montana, there's about one attorney for every 4 Montanans. If you are below that line, there is one attorney for every 12 Montanans. So there's this huge need, and that's where we try and focus our services, because that's where we see the biggest need for our clients.
Absolutely. And you guys have a wide range of attorneys that focus on lots of different issues.
Correct. So we have a few generalists who kind of do all of the things I've been talking about. We have a housing group that's really expanded over since COVID, and the need for more housing assistance, which has been a huge bonus for Montana Legal Services to be able to provide more services to people. We have a debt-specific group of attorneys, so people who are suffering from debt. We have an elder law specific attorney, and we also have a lot of family law and crime victim attorneys as well. So those are kind of our big focuses.
And one of the things I think Montana Legal Services has done so well is their Indian law practice group as well.
Right. I believe maybe somebody's going to be on later to talk more specifically about that, but we also have specific services for tribal members who have issues in tribal court as well.
That is so helpful, because I can imagine the 1 in 12 number goes way down when you're talking about tribal law.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Kelly, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about one of your programs, is the Medical Legal Partnership. And then I also want to talk a little bit about that website, because I use that thing on the daily basis. So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the services that Montana Legal Services offers in a really special way, which is those medical legal partnerships, which is a really interesting program that can really provide assistance to folks that are facing co-occurring health issues and legal issues. So very important. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that Montana Legal Services has online. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we are speaking with Callie Dale, and she is a supervising attorney with Montana Legal Services Association. And we're talking a little bit about all of the services that they offer, including one of my personal favorites, which is the Montana Medical Legal Partnership Group. So Callie, one of the things that I think is so fascinating about this work is that it's really underpinned on the idea that your legal issues can really affect your health and how those outcomes. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the idea of medical legal partnerships was started in Boston, actually in the 90s, and it was really focused on children. What they were seeing is children coming repeatedly into the ER for asthma attacks, and the actual issue was that they were in housing that had mold that was constantly re-aggravating this asthma attack. So by helping them get in healthier housing, they were able to reduce the amount of time these children were in the emergency rooms. And we've been able to, through evidence, expand that a lot, that oftentimes having stress of legal issues, whether that is unhealthy housing or if you're not being housed, it's a lot more difficult to maintain your medication. Some people need to keep their medications refrigerated if your refrigerator isn't working or your electricity is being turned off. That makes it a lot more difficult. And what we've seen a lot is there's also benefit of the stress reduction of helping people get out of domestic violence situations, helping them get a parent-firm parenting plan. Obviously, housing issues are tied to that, making sure their benefits are all turned on. So in Montana in 2015, we started a partnership with 4 federally qualified healthcare centers across the state. So our original partners are Alluvian in Great Falls, Bullhook in Havre, Northwest in Libby, and Ag Worker Health and Services in Billings and a few other locations. And we've been able to expand now to 6 partners across the state. So it's possible that your local healthcare center also has this connection with Montana Legal Services. So in those partnerships, we screen people for legal needs. So we ask them if they need help with their public benefits, if their housing, their family law. One of my favorite quotes from a client that I served was, "Who knew that filling out this stupid piece of paper would help me get this attorney?" So my apologies if you get overwhelmed with stupid pieces of paper in your healthcare center, but we found it's a really good way to provide services, and we also serve the same amount of clients. We've also expanded to a couple hospital settings, so it's also possible that your hospital partners with Montana Legal Services to provide these same services. So that's another way to get access to Montana Legal Services, but we provide the same services of housing and debt and public benefits.
And I think when I first heard about the partnership, I was thinking, oh, these are healthcare related legal issues, so helping with the healthcare power of attorney or something like debt related to healthcare, but it really is all sorts of legal issues can affect your health.
Yeah, so we absolutely help with those issues, and we certainly certainly see them a lot, Social Security issues, things like that. But really, a broad range of legal issues can really be affecting both your physical and your mental health, and that's the focus of it. So it's broad-based services in your healthcare center, but they don't have to be related to your whatever you're seeing the doctor for that day.
And Montana is really one of the leading partners in this. I've heard so many wonderful things on a national level of the work that you guys are doing here in Montana.
Yes, it's kind of the first rural model. So Montana is a frontier state, as everyone knows, and providing services from a few separate locations to the entire state is really difficult. And this has been a really fruitful partnership to help us provide better services across the state, and also hopefully help our healthcare partners as well, just to be another tool in all of the good work that they do for their patients.
Yeah, that's such an amazing model, so interesting. And if you're in a community that might have one of these, make sure you check it out because it's so interesting. Kelly, one of the things that I love about Montana Legal Services is your really amazing MontanaLawHelp.org website. I use it on a regular basis for all sorts of really good forms. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's a great resource for if you just have a legal question. It's curated, it's up to date, it's accurate information. We've really been increasing its accessibility, so the search bar works a lot better. There's also live help that you can get in helping navigate it. But if you're just looking for a question and maybe don't want to talk to an attorney, sure, you can go there. And also there's a ton of forms. So if you're wanting to do a basic divorce, parenting plan, anything like that, those forms are all available. It's got a ton of resources, and they're hopefully done in a way that you can easily access them. They're organized by different legal issues, but also you can search and ask for live help while you're on the website.
One of the things I love about it is I can search it at 6 o'clock in the morning if I'm up doing some research, or I can search it at 10 o'clock at night. I don't have to wait for someone to be there live to answer a question.
Yes, and we also have a lot of forms that there's specific instructions, and they'll walk you through them. So it's not just an overwhelming like PDF where you're downloading 50 pages. It will ask you, what's your name? And then it will populate the whole forms for you. And we found that to be really helpful in people. So you're not just, sometimes legal work can be really overwhelming if you're trying to do it by yourself, and there's a lot of assistance on there to get it. You can also, from that website, apply for services. If you can't find what you're looking for or need more help, you can link back to Montana Legal Services and get an appointment to talk to an attorney.
And those forms that sort of walk you through are such a really great way to remove barriers to access to service, especially for a lot of our older Montanans who maybe don't necessarily have as much familiarity with computers. Yeah, such a great resource. Okay, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about the Medicaid unwinding that's happening in Montana and all of the great resources that Montana Legal Services has. So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Medicaid unwinding process and what that's been meaning for Montanans. And then if you are having issues with your Medicaid unwinding, what sort of resources might be out there for you and how you might be able to contact Montana Legal Services for a little bit of assistance. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Perhaps our regular viewers have noticed that we've been missing a host for the last several months. In July, our favorite person, Kimmy Everman, unexpectedly passed away, and we'd like to take a few moments now to share some memories that we have of her.
For many of us, watching Aging Horizons with Kimmy as the host was like talking to a friend, and for Kimmy, that's exactly what it was. She cared about all of the viewers of Montana on Aging Horizons as if they were her personal friends. She wanted each of us to live the best possible life and connect to as many services as possible. She had no greater joy in life than connecting advocates to others that could help Montanans across the state with problems that they maybe didn't know as much about. Losing Kimmy was a great loss to the state of Montana, but the work that she did will live on in the hearts and minds and Rolodexes of so many of us at the state.
So working with Kimmy was always a very fun experience for me. She lit up a room with her smile, and I loved her giggle. She had this giggle that was the cutest, most happiest spreading of joy that I could describe. She also was very passionate about her work, about helping veterans, and about her dog Sophie.
Kimmy's been my friend, my coworker, and my mentor for over 20 years. She has taught me so much about not only Medicare, but working with people. She had a great sense of compassion and love, especially for veterans, animals, and the underdog. She loved working with seniors and people with disabilities. That was her heart. She will be greatly missed.
Aging Horizons has been on the air for over 30 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with these wonderful ladies and everybody in senior long-term care that length of time, including Kimmy Everman. And whenever we got done with the show, I just loved her laughter, which everybody's commented here. It was like we're getting away with something. Isn't this fun? And I will sincerely miss both that and her.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. We've been speaking with Callie Dale, who's a supervising attorney for Montana Legal Services, and she's been telling us all about their amazing work. And one of the really important issues that they're helping with right now is Medicaid unwinding. So, Callie, just as an overview, Medicaid unwinding is the process that we're going through right now where everyone is sort of recertifying their Medicaid eligibility, correct?
Right. So we're about almost a year into the process now, and the state has kind of been rolling out different sections of the population that are eligible for Medicaid and asking them to recertify that they're still eligible. So that's kind of where we are right now in the process.
And this is maybe something that not everyone was super familiar with, maybe is a change to how they received their Medicaid in the past, correct?
Right. And what we're being seeing is pretty much everyone is being asked to recertify. So it's people who have been Medicaid eligible for an extended period of time. So it might be the first time in a really long time that they're asked to get these, or that they're getting this paperwork and being asked to go through everything.
So what are some of the tips that folks need to know to make sure that they continue their Medicaid coverage?
The biggest thing that we're seeing is making sure that people have their address updated with Office of Public Assistance. So if you have moved recently, probably if you've moved in the past 5 years, since the last time that you've talked to the Office of Public Assistance, have you moved or changed? And especially with, we've seen a lot of people, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that their housing has changed in the past couple years because of all sorts of reasons. But if your housing has changed and you have not updated OPA, then none of that renewal paperwork is going to go to your correct person. And there are often really short deadlines for you to get that paperwork back for your coverage not to be interrupted.
And then I personally don't always open every single piece of mail that I get, especially if it's like, this is probably just junk mail. So it's really important that people actually open those letters if they're getting letters, right?
Yes. So you'll get letters and you'll get a big packet of information, and it can be overwhelming, but it is really important to be opening that because the deadlines to turn that information around are often really short. And if you don't do it, then it can affect your insurance coverage.
So if a person gets that packet and they look at it and they're like, I can't. I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. What are there resources at my MLSA that people can help?
Yes. So we were working, and we do have some limited resources to help people. People should certainly call, and that's something that we can help with. Often, kind of going back to our medical legal partnership, your local healthcare centers can also be really helpful. They often have people who can help you navigate that as well. There's some statewide people doing it, and then also at your local healthcare centers, they also have services to help people fill out that paperwork if you're feeling overwhelmed.
And I think one of the important things is to know it's with many government programs, it's so much easier to continue your coverage than to try to reestablish it.
Yes. Again, they're very short deadlines, so if you missed that, then you've gotten into the appeal process, which has been taking a long time for people to navigate through, or you just have to reapply for health care again, which we're seeing long lines with that as well. So the best option, if you can do it, would just be to get that packet, fill it out, and get it back to the state and continue your eligibility. If there are issues about your eligibility, if they're saying you're no longer eligible for any reason, that's also something Montana Legal Services can help with. We do a lot of the appeals work and also helping navigate eligibility issues. More so, we don't have as many resources to help people fill out paperwork, but again, we do have some limited. So if you're if you're having issues with that, please call Montana Legal Services, and we can either help you or help you guide you in the right direction.
To maybe someone who can really give you that on the boots on the ground kind of help.
Yes. Filling out paperwork is much easier to do in person, in my opinion, than on the phone. So sometimes we have connections to people who are in wherever you are living that can help you do that, but we can also talk you through it on the phone as well.
Wonderful. Callie, you've been at Montana Legal Services for almost close to a decade now, right?
Yeah, 8 years.
How do you think, what sort of issues have you seen coming up and coming down as Montanans age and deal with legal issues?
Yeah, so our biggest area of law forever and for always is our family law, but in that we also, with wills and helping people do powers of attorney and advance directives, I think the state has done such a good job of educating people that that's probably necessary and can be so helpful that we've been seeing a real uptake of people coming to us for that assistance, which is so great, because having your, especially your power of attorneys and advance directives in line can be so helpful to you and your family as you're aging. So certainly, I think we've seen an uptick in that. And then housing is a big deal, and also is just increasing as people, rent is increasing, and lack of affordable housing is just a huge issue, which I think people can see both reflected in their communities and also know about. So I would say those are our biggest issues that we help with. We've been doing a lot of education around debt. There really are a lot of resources. I think people get overwhelmed of just being like, well, I have the credit card debt, so there's nothing I can do about it. There are a lot of resources, especially protection from being harassed repeatedly from callers and things like that. I think that, and whether with public benefit. So their biggest are family law and housing, because I think that those people see those issues and they're like, these are legal. But there's a lot of resources and help that you can get around debt and around public benefits that I feel like people don't reach out to us as much as they probably could.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes we don't even realize that maybe those are legal issues, or that there might be a legal solution, or even just someone that they could talk to about those things.
Yes, and I will say again on MontanaLawHelp.org, there's a lot of forms and information about those issues as well.
And then, Callie, can you just tell me generally about the numbers of people that you see and serve every year? We get thousands of phone calls a year, and we're able to provide assistance in about a third of those cases. We also have a pretty robust pro bono program, so we have attorneys that work for Montana Legal Services, and they do amazing work, but we also partner with private attorneys that can take quite a few cases and also bigger cases. And then we also partner with the state to run the Modest Means program. So let's say you can afford an attorney, but maybe you can't afford a full-priced attorney. So we run a lot of those programs to serve a lot of Montanans, which is why I always say, call, do the online intake, because even if you might not be able to talk to an attorney at Montana Legal Services, there's often a lot of information and other resources that we can guide you to. We also work with the law school to provide clinics with law students. So we've got our fingers in a lot of different pots and a lot of ways that we hope that we're providing good services to Montanans. Yeah, Montana Legal Services is such an important partner. Callie, thank you so much for being here today and all of that really helpful information. As always, thank you for staying tuned to Aging Horizons.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.